Ancient Corinth. The site of ancient Corinth was first inhabited during the Neolithic period, 6500 to 3250 BC.
Corinth was an ancient city-state polis, roughly halfway between Athens and Sparta.
Since 1896, extensive archaeological excavations have unearthed much of the ancient city.
The city was a major trade center and had a significant geopolitical role in ancient times, especially during the Peloponnesian War.
In ancient times, when the city was at its peak, it reached a population of 90,000 inhabitants.
The most important colonies of Corinth were founded in the west during the 8th century BC. In Sicily, the Corinthians founded Syracuse.
History. The city reached its golden age during the 7th and 6th centuries BC and controlled a large portion of the northeast of Peloponnese, while at the same time it was a center of trade, with its main trade route being ceramics. The major rival of Corinth was Athens.
However, from the end of the 6th century BC, the rise of Athens and its dominance in production of ceramic vases and Mediterranean trade gradually eclipsed the influence of the Corinthians, particularly after the Persian Wars and the prevalence of Athens in Greece.
In the Peloponnesian War, 431 to 404 BC, Corinth allied itself with Sparta. Despite the defeat of Athens, Corinth did not manage to regain its former power.
With the organization of a Pan-Hellenic conference in Corinth in 337 BC by King Philip II of Macedon, Corinth temporarily regained importance, however was subjugated by the Macedonians soon thereafter.
In 146 BC, Corinth was destroyed by the Romans. About 100 years later, Julius Caesar decided to refound Corinth as a Roman colony. The city remained powerful and was decreed the capital of the Greek province of the Eastern Roman Empire.
In 1204, it was occupied by the Franks and later the Ottomans. It was liberated during the Greek War of Independence in 1821.
The Temple of Apollo. The Temple of Apollo, the ancient Greek god of light, was constructed between the 7th and 6th centuries BC and was built using stone, earth, straw bricks, and wooden pillars.
Approximately in 540 BC, a new temple of Doric order was built in the place of the old one. It had 6 columns on the narrow sides and 15 in the wide. In the archaeological site of ancient Corinth, this temple is the sole remaining building of the ancient times. The rest were built during the Roman era.
The Corinthian Order. The Corinthian Order is the latest of the 3 principal classical orders of ancient Greek and Roman architecture. The inventor of the order was sculptor Callimachus, whose inspiration was a basket that decorated a little girl's grave in Corinth. It was the most decorative order of the 3 and was mainly used during the Roman era in many variations.
Pots. Pots. It was in Corinth where black figure pottery was invented, which was adopted in other areas as well, while it was perfected nearly a century later in Athenian workshops.
Saint Paul in Corinth. Saint Paul is also known as the Apostle of the Nations because of his missionary journeys throughout the Eastern Mediterranean for the spreading of Christianity. In this context, he visited several Greek cities, including Corinth.
In the center of the Roman Forum, there was an elevated place, the Vima, from which the leaders addressed the public. It was at this place where St. Paul undergone trial for conducting illegal teaching. Visitors can still see the remains of this bema in the archaeological site. Corinth. The Corinth was a castle upon a hill that rises southwest of ancient Corinth. It was a fortified citadel of the ancient and medieval Corinth. Corinth had its ownership altered many times between different Greek and Latin rulers. Finally, in 1458, Mohammed II the Conqueror occupied the castle.
In 1687, the castle was passed on to the Venetians, who repaired it and gave it its current form. A few years later, in 1715, the Turks conquered the Anchor Corinth. The castle was occupied by them until 1821, when passed on to the Greek revolutionaries. The castle has 3 gates and is ringed by 3 rows of very powerful walls.